gonna smoke some crack. What's the use of that? I'm gonna listen to Dopey. I'm gonna get my fix. But the hell with it. I'm gonna listen to Dopey. This Dopey podcast is coming in your ear with heroin and ketamine, sobriety and beer. Dave and that other guy, you know, the hot one everybody wants to fuck. Just thought I'd throw in a visual for the listeners. Now you know. Good luck. So pull up a chair, start the car. Let's get on the road. Hey, let's go. The Dopey podcast is starting up. Welcome to the show.
Dopey podcast, Dopey Nation, we're all in. Dopey Nation, Dopey podcast, Dopey Nation, stay strong. Dopey podcast, stay strong, we're all in. We're so alive. Dopey podcast, stay strong, we're all in. Dopey Nation. Alright, that's it. Fuck that. That's good.
Hello and welcome to Dopey, the podcast about drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. And I am Dave, and it's very exciting. We have an old friend of the show, old friend and employer of Chris's, the one, the only, the great, illustrious Joe Schrank. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Super happy to be here. Sorry Chris is not with us, as I'm sure you are, but here we are.
You want to hear something amazing that Chris would be incredibly excited about?
What's that? I
would say in an hour, we're going to have 1 million downloads.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's an illustrious evening in the history of Dopey.
Who are these people downloading this?
The Dopey Nation, Joe. You know, you're all over that shit.
Okay. No, I know. You know, I just did a video for Now This, and it was one of my rants about how rehab doesn't do anything.
Uh-huh.
And it got almost 1 million views. And I thought it was really, really, really cool. I thought I was like, you know, king shit. And then the Hello Kitty Now This got like 45 million views.
Listen, but Hello Kitty is like a really wide-reaching brand, and like 6-year-olds are not.
It is, and it was like the Hello Kitty restaurant or something. I forget what it was about, but it was me going on about what I think is important shit about how rehab is, you know, and it was pale in comparison the number of views that I got as compared to Hello Kitty.
Well, you really just ruined my incredible night. I was really excited, man. I'm still excited. It's like, imagine. No, I don't mean to burst your balloon.
I'm just, you know, I'm always amazed at that. This other guy who did a video about the same time I did, and I actually know this guy in a weird way, but he's a Jesuit priest, and his was about something on the border, one of the border towns, and his got 18 million views.
What did he say?
So you know, very Jesuit priest things. We should welcome refugees like Jesus would have, and you know, we should help them find work and so on and so forth. And so he got a big following, and I knew this guy because somebody went to grammar school with her brother-in-law. So
maybe we should get him on Dopey. Maybe that would really up the listeners or something.
If he posted a link.
No, if I got this Jesuit priest to come on Dopey, maybe that would like increase downloads.
You should get Jesuit priests. One of the things that the Jesuits are really into is social justice, and I think that part of my interest in drug policy is the social justice aspect of it. So yeah, you should get him. I can try to hook you up.
I don't want the Jesuit priest. I want is a real. What exactly? Like, forgive me because I'm a fucking idiot about a lot of things. Social justice. What exactly is it?
Well, look, I think that there is unjust things in the world, as we all know, right? And the question is, why is so much of it focused on drug policy? So, in other words, and I've been in this for a million years as a social worker, as a recovering person myself. I started websites. I've done 9 trillion interventions, rehabs, the whole deal. I mean, and as near as I can figure out, I can't exactly figure out what drug use is, but I can tell you what it's not. It is not crime. Right. So whatever it is, okay, it's a bad health decision. So is McDonald's, but we don't shoot people because they went to McDonald's. And so the idea that we have people in jail, they are incarcerated and removed from their families and removed from society because they are drug users is inherently wrong. The fact that they up the ante into most of those folks are black or brown men is wrong. You know, those are just wrongs that need to be righted into in the world, and so that's what social justice is. Let's find a more just way of dealing with those kinds of things.
You know, this morning I was actually driving to a meeting. It was the first time I had been to a meeting in a few weeks with the holidays and all this stuff. And I was driving to a meeting, and I was thinking about you coming on the show, and I was thinking about legal weed. And I was just like, for a second, I was just thinking about, you know how like, this is going to sound so stupid, but you know how like when you think about what you're going to post on social media, like you think of the dumb things that you can say for social media and they pop into your head. And it was like, I kind of had this thought about like how I picked the wrong time to get clean now that weed is about to be sold legally in Manhattan or whatever, you know, and just like, and then I have this sort of like built-in resentment against the fact that, that people get to go to the store to buy bud or whatever. Just like this sort of like I'm missing out on something. But then it hit me like kind of social justice without really registering it as social justice, which is why should anybody get locked up for buying bud? You know, it's like, you know, and it's obvious.
That's exactly correct. And look, and again, I don't know whether an individual ingests cannabis or not, or whether it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, or whether somebody decides they want to participate in any form of intoxication or not. That doesn't really have a lot to do with the law. It has more to do with their personal life or their family system or their health, or well, why are they doing it, or is it just recreation, or is it tipping into something negative? But I hear you. I mean, look, I'd go to, and they're older now, but I remember I went to the kindergarten parent night, and these people were like, oh my God, it's just so stressful. Do you care if we have wine? And I was like, I do, actually. Do you care if I smoke crack? Like, yeah, I think it's weird. But really, the truth is I was just pissed because I couldn't get drunk.
Did you say that?
I did. I'm wildly unpopular.
When was this? When did you say such a thing?
Well, he's 14 now, so I guess 9 years ago.
Yeah. So would you say that – could you imagine saying something like that now, or do you think that was just a different iteration of Joe Schrank?
No, I think I would probably say the same thing now. It might even get worse because now I'm almost 50. You know how old people just – they have
get
no
crazy.
filter at all.
Yeah,
they get crazier.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know what?
They care less. So
you know what really like it boggles my mind a little bit, and it's pretty much meaningless, but it boggles my mind anyway. I remember – when Chris was at my apartment on the Lower East Side, and he was so excited that you were going to come on the first time, and we went downstairs, and I think we met you at the supermarket or someplace on that street.
It was somewhere outside.
Yeah, it was something weird, and then I remember.
No, I remember this. Yeah.
For some reason, I remember going upstairs with you, and then we sat down and we recorded the show. And like we you know, I've had a bunch of old time guests on recently, and I can't help but just reminisce about how we sat down in front of the laptop and we talked, you know, and like I never would have thought that Dopey would become even what I mean, it's nothing, but it's still so much more than I thought it was going to be. You know what I mean? And
that's interesting because I kind of thought it would. I mean, Chris told me that he just wanted to do this as just to see and just for fun and whatever. And would I come on? And sure, of course, why not? And I'm not surprised. I mean, look, 1 million downloads is a significant thing. That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
I'm sure Hello Kitty would be
thing.
pissed if the next thing she released only got 1 million downloads, though.
I'm sure, for sure. Absolutely. And I'm sure that won't happen. I'm sure Hello Kitty probably starts at 5 million downloads.
Once the name Hello Kitty's there, it's probably like 12 million.
Maybe you should change it to Hello Dopey.
That's an idea.
Maybe if you change the name of the podcast or somehow included Hello Kitty, I don't know.
What I would be up for is replacing the nodding out guy with a Hello Kitty. So it was Dopey, but the O was Hello Kitty's head. I would be totally into that for this episode. Maybe, but we could probably get sued. We could probably get sued for that.
They wouldn't sue you. What is for what? What are they going to sue you for? That's the thing about lawsuits is they have to be actionable. People tell me that all the time. I'm going to sue you. I'm like, go ahead. What do you want? You know, size 14, dirty Converse.
Right. Yeah. What are you going to get? A box of frosted mini wheats? You know.
Right.
The question is this, Joe, because you know about this kind of stuff. Do you think Disney is aware of Dopey or no?
Walt Disney?
Not Walt himself. I mean, the lawyers of Disney. Do you think they're aware of a podcast?
I don't know. And this is interesting. You know, my brother-in-law is a big executive at Disney. And my sister listens to Dopey because she really liked Chris, and Chris drove her to the airport once when we were at friends in Connecticut, and he was at his place in nearby in Massachusetts, whatever it was. You know, it's right there.
Great Barrington.
Anyways, yeah, Great Barrington, exactly. So he was at his place, and I couldn't do it for whatever reason. I ran off to find somebody in rehab or whatever I was doing, and so Chris took my sister to the airport in New York, so they spent a couple of hours together in the car, and she was absolutely devastated about this, as we all were. And so she listens to Dopey. So maybe her husband has heard the Dopey podcast and reported you to their legal team. I don't know.
Well, I would love to hear from them. I don't know, because they can't sue me for using.
Have you violated Disney in some way?
No, but it's just because the Disney character, the Dopey dwarf or whatever. You know, Chris had never even heard of. Chris played stupid on so many things, but one of the things he played stupid on was that he refused to acknowledge that Snow White and the Seven Dwarves existed. Like he pretended like he had never heard of it.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Yeah, of course, that's ridiculous.
Now, I have a bunch of stuff to talk to you about, but and this might seem very dark and something you don't want to do, but one of my favorite Chris stories, Chris Dopey stories, you know, terrible stories, was when he was working for you.
Right.
And that relapse in your house when he was running the house, it's like
yes.
Could you tell that story from your, because you own the house, could you tell that story from your perspective?
Well, from my perspective, Chris
before you even tell it, why don't you give a little background because Joe owned a sober house in Brooklyn, right?
Right. I had a transitional living program in Brooklyn in a converted loft space. It's still there, and it's now run by fucking idiots, so stay away from that place at all costs. But and that's a whole other saga. But anyway, at this particular point, Chris was sort of my pilot fish. Like, you hang around with me and you help me through my day was pretty much his job description, which is good and bad, you know. I'm sure there were good things and there were bad things about it. And then he just sort of kind of moved through the system a little bit, and then he ended up being the house manager and reporting to me, and he did a great job, and I thought he was terrific. And one of the things that I always really liked about Chris was that he was very smart, and that goes a long way for me. Like, one of my big prejudices is dumb people. You know, I understand their inherent worth and value, but I don't like them. And so Chris, you know, I always thought Chris was really smart, and I always really liked him. And then we expanded. We took some more space, right? So we were going to sort of tier 3 of when people were more independent livers and they were coming and going and they were more stable at school, at work, or whatever they were doing. So Chris had moved down the block over there. And when he relapsed, I always thought he wanted me to be more upset about it than I was. Like, he sort of wanted me to be angry and resentful, and I wasn't either. I was like, well, I don't know. People get cancer and they're great for a while, and then they have cancer again. And diabetics, they don't always have the perfect blood sugar levels. So I was not angry in any way with Chris. It got to be a very weird thing between me and Chris's sister, because she wanted him to come home and blah, 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 and I wanted him to stay. I was not interested in firing Chris. I was not interested in anything. I was interested in whatever, man. I don't get mad at drug addicts for acting like drug addicts. That's stupid. That's why do we want to complain that the lake is wet? That it is what it is, and I don't expect young guys with a history of issues to not have issues.
Right.
So let's get back on track. And then it kind of got to be this power play between me and his sister, and then I was like, look, I got a custody battle. I'm not fighting you for custody of Chris, so why don't you come get him? So it was much more of that kind of a situation than any sort
that's not the story I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear the actual story of what he did at the end of his time at the house.
Oh, whatever. He took the psychiatrist's credit card, which was like... And the psychiatrist, who's a very nice guy and a very smart guy, and he's very dedicated, but a little more easily rattled than I would be. I was like, well, cancel the credit card. Like, is this insurmountable? Didn't you go to medical school? You must know there's a system for this. But so that was not great. He kind of left me with the lease, which was also not great. It's not the best marketing. That the house manager is currently using drugs with people. That's probably not.
What I understood was that he locked himself into his room. He confiscated a bunch of ecstasy off of people, wound up taking the ecstasy while surrounded by their urine bottles, and tripped out, and then shot dope and shot coke in that room on ecstasy. It was just like for me. And I remember because I had met Chris in rehab, and I was clean at the time, and he called me and he was like, do you want to trip acid with me while he was running your house? And I was like, no, I'm clean. And he goes, fuck it, let's just do dope. And I was like, no. But it was like when he told me that story about your house in that room, because he's told me a million stories, on the show and off the show and whatever. I just found something about that story just to be like the most telling, perfect Dopey story of the house manager locking himself into the room of the house and taking the drugs.
Your show is about the insanity of addiction and the crazy places that takes people.
Right.
Absolutely, that is one of the crazy places that took people to. And look, Chris's job, after that happened, Chris's job was going to be over. I wasn't ready to quit on Chris. I was like, well, we'll figure it out, Chris. You can't be in charge anymore. I didn't exactly hear that he had dropped acid in front of everybody's urine screen, but I don't doubt it. I heard a couple of different incarnations and versions of that story. And sober livings are nothing without gossip.
Of course.
So I didn't really, I don't really pay a lot of attention to it. I heard all kinds of things about Chris. My primary concern was his safety. Not stepping into family dynamic. Like, I don't want to sign up for problems. I have my own crazy family dynamic. I don't need to take on other people's. I will say I advised his girlfriend. I was like, look, honey, you're young and cute. You should run. Like, don't drag yourself down with this shit. And then I saw her on Facebook. She has a baby now. So I hope it worked out.
Yeah, she became some sort of hardcore converted Jew and has a nice Jewish baby.
Oh, is that right? Oh, I didn't know that.
It's like...
I didn't know she became a converted. She's like a Hasidim.
Yeah. And Chris would constantly text her about yarmulke sales in Brooklyn and just stuff like that. He would just constantly, because he loved her. He couldn't let it go. You know what I mean? Even when it was over and he had his own, was with Annie and she was engaged, he still was texting her with yarmulke sales because that's how Chris was.
I got it.
You know,
I didn't realize that she jumped into a fundamental religious sect.
Yeah, but she was very sweet. She was very
Why
sweet.
that? Why she could have been Amish
Or Mennonite.
like a Mormon, Mennonite, like a Mormon cult compound, something like that.
Well, she worked on the Upper East Side, and Upper East Side nannies have fascinations with rich Jewish people. It's all built in. It's all built in. But she's a sweet girl. I met her.
No, she is. She was smart. I mean, I liked her. I thought she was great. I didn't want to speak badly of Chris. I just wanted to, give them the benefit of my experience that statistically this wasn't going to go well. And, I think that one of the biggest addictions that we overlook is the addiction to addicts. And I hear it all the time from wives and girlfriends about how crazy the husband is. He's this, he's that, he's the other thing. Well, what's crazier? I don't know. Dating one? That might be crazier than being one.
Right.
I mean,
And
that might willingly do it, because I do think that there's an element of being an addicted person that is outside your will. If you actually sign on to join into that kind of chaos, you need to look at yourself internally.
Right. So people, and that's codependency, right? Being addicted to an addict, is that just codependency?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's one phrase. Sure, that applies.
You like to call it, though, being addicted to an addict. I'm sure there's a shitload of people who are listening. It turns out there's a lot of people who are listening to the show aren't addicts, and they have loved ones or whatever. So
Yeah, no, I believe that they are looking for answers, and they're looking for insight into the person. I thought that I should maybe I can do a segment for you of call me, and I'll interpret what they're saying for you.
Okay, so how do we set that up?
I don't know. I'm almost 50. I can talk on the phone and answer email. That's it.
So Chris said you weren't even that good at that. He said you were good at answering the phone, but he had to answer emails for you a lot. So let's put it out there. Dopey Nation, if you have an issue with a loved one, reach out and we'll do a little Call Joe segment, and Joe can give you
a little Call Joe segment or email. I'm happy to answer an email. You can read them. But I'm pretty good at trying to articulate what the impaired person is trying to say. So.
All right, so we'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
Now, if you guys don't know, Joe's current gig is he runs a treatment facility in Northern California. Is it in San Francisco?
Yeah, in San Francisco.
In San Francisco, It's called High Sobriety. And
No. High Sobriety's in Los Angeles. They're dicks too. Fuck them.
Fuck them.
Is called.
Oh God, forgive me.
This is Remedy Recovery.
Dude, look at me. Should I back up? Do you want me to back up?
Back up. No, it's Remedy Recovery.
So Joe's working. Do you own that place too?
I do. Yep.
So Joe owns a place in Northern California in San Francisco called Remedy Recovery. And the thing about Remedy Recovery is it's designed to help opiate addicts achieve some kind of non-opioid taking state through the wonders of THC and marijuana. True?
Well, yes, partially. We're a medication-assisted recovery program. So buprenorphine, the injectable, the subcutaneous, the film, whatever it is, you work that out with your doctor. But we are not taking cannabis off the table as a medical intervention, right? So lots of different people use it for lots of different things, whether it's, inflammation. There's all kinds of reasons. But one of the pushback I get and the heat is, well, they just want to get high. I'm like, well, yeah, that is what they want to do. So I'm not opposed to people using it for recreational purposes. The reason that I like cannabis and I am not a consumer of it is because when we get fractured people with a history of substance misuse, the stakes are very low for misusing cannabis.
Right.
So there's not a lethal point of ingestion. I don't know. I guess somebody might laugh their head off, or I don't know, a bale of it could fall on them. Maybe the DEA could come through the door. They could shoot them. There are some negative things. And it's not to say that cannabis is without risk. One of my theories about rehab and why it's not effective is that we don't respect pacing. And one of the ways that we can pace is by allowing some room for cannabis use while people get their lives together and move away from impaired or lethal drug use. And it's not just opiates, it's also alcohol. There's a lot of different reasons that people come in. So kind of harm reduction, we're definitely medication assisted. When people call them, they're like, well, I think I should pray and go to AA. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not opposed to it. There's 10,000 rehabs in the country that will indoctrinate you into that theory. I'm happy to help you find one. But that's not what we are. We are a medication-assisted program. There is no shame. I think that the medication continues on in perpetuity. The same way a diabetic can have some success with diet, exercise, and behavioral changes, but they're probably still going to be on medication. And that's actually the truth about opiate addiction. Behavioral changes, behavioral modification, faith, all those are great and valid things. People still need to be medicated. And in my view, Jesus gave us smart people to figure out medication, so you're not being oppositional to faith.
But obviously, I mean, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about diabetes, and I don't know anything about Moses or Jesus. I don't know anything about any of it. But I do know that I was addicted to opioids, and now I'm not. I'm not currently on them, and I'm not taking anything. I mean, I eat too much chocolate. I drink too much soda, whatever.
Well, look, and that's great. But for every one of you, there are thousands and thousands of people who don't share your story. And so from looking at it as a policy level, it's about numbers and it's about data. I would never advise you start smoking pot. I'm like, well, my thing is you're doing great. Why change horses?
We do this Twitter account and really a bunch of very nice people on the Dopey Twitter account. And there's one dude who, regular listener, he has, I think he has 3 years off of heroin, right? He has a family, he has a little kid, and he's been on Suboxone the whole time. And now he wants to get off Suboxone, And
for what reason?
Because he doesn't want to be on it anymore. Too
bad. Diabetics don't want to be on insulin.
I know. I was on methadone for many years. I didn't want to be on it anymore. What is the difference? Like, I don't know about chemically, but I was never on Suboxone for a long time. How does it compare with being on methadone for a long time?
There's cultural differences for one. I mean, you take it in the privacy of your own home and you can do a monthly injectable. You don't have to go to a clinic for it. So I think that that's a big difference. The actual biochemistry, I don't understand, but you could have Dr. Bienenfeld on to explain it to the Dopey Nation if you'd like. He'll tell you all about it. He's a great dude. He knew Chris.
No, but I guess what I'm asking is, I know that when I would take methadone, I would feel a little, I felt way different than I feel now. And I also took Suboxone enough to know that it changed how I felt. Like it made me feel different. It made me feel, if I took it right now, I'd get high as shit. If I took it when I had a habit, I felt different, and I think that this guy in Canada with 3 years off of heroin wants to experience life without it,
Look, and I think that is a viable choice.
Of course.
He has the right to self-determine if that's what he wants to do. He can try and see how that goes. I think it's a risk.
Of course.
I think he's taking a risk, and I think he needs to be conscious of it, and I think he needs to have a plan if it doesn't work out.
Well, I think that's the scary thing to me about the whole medicated assisted treatment thing. Because I did not have you on the show to debate with you. I do not think that I could fare well in a debate. Like I just have my experience and my opinion, and I don't, it's just mine, because I also whenever I did medicated assisted treatment, I wound up on dope. Whenever I did it, I wound up taking pills. I never stuck to a plan. I always abused drugs with it.
Well, and so medication assistance is only as effective as compliance with the plan.
Right. So I was not really compliant.
Work if,
and then and I assume I assume that many junkies and many drug users would have similar issues that I did, because I was defiant and I loved to get high, and I felt like once I put something in me, I could put something else in me. That's why I advocate for abstinence, because first of all, and I know the statistics don't back up my thinking, but I just think anybody could do it. I think people, if they really tried to do it and committed themselves to do it, they could. And then they wouldn't have to worry about getting off Suboxone.
And look, here's the thing with that is people give me that all the time that I'm not supportive of abstinence. I've been abstinent for 22 years.
I know.
I don't know how much more supportive I could be. What I want to do, or what I'm trying to do in this reinvention of rehab, is create space for people to find their way, even if it's not the current paradigm. I don't know that's true. I don't know that anybody can do it. I mean, that's the message, right? You didn't pray, you didn't do a 4-step, like all that fucking crap.
No, I did do that stuff.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's what people are told when they're
Right.
on medication, is you're not really serious. That's a crutch. Like,
Right.
I'm pretty serious about lowering my cholesterol, but I'm probably going to take fucking Lipitor until I'm dead.
Right.
I don't know. So I don't know. I don't have all the answers. What I know is, whatever it is, 150 people a day is unacceptable. We can do better than that.
Right.
What I know is, and I don't know this empirically, Chris medicated, maybe he's not dead. Maybe he's doing his, and I don't even know, maybe he was medicated, but maybe he's not, maybe he's just chugging away with his grad program.
Right.
I don't know. I don't have all the answers.
Right.
But I know that this isn't right. I know that this sort of fever pitch of death, we can't just say, well, I guess we'll just keep telling people to go to AA then. That's just pure insanity.
Well, the thing that I find a little, that I find weird is the idea that they should be medicated for the rest of their lives. Like, I like the idea of medication saving lives, and I love the idea of people not having to die. I love that idea. I don't love the idea that it's like, okay, now you're on this and you never get off. Like, it's just like, I feel like it limits potential.
I think it may, and I think that that is the sort of hobgoblin of recovery.
Right.
I can never have another drink again.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe you can when you're 45, but you're 22 right now and crashing cars. I'm going to be on this for the rest of my life. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe there's going to come a time where you're stable, where you've been doing well. You can talk to your doctor. You can taper it down. You can get off of it if there's a medical indication to do that. So I think that it's, look, the one day at a time, that seems pretty universal. Right. Right. Like, at the moment, you're doing well on medication. Let's not fuck that up.
Right.
That's a very classic thing with drug addicts. I'm doing well, so let's stop doing it.
Right. Do you think that when people have a problem with it, it's mostly jealousy? What do you think it is? Like, the stigma? I think my stigma is like, I just get scared. I get scared for people. I get scared that people. What is that? What's that?
Sorry, that's cookies. Sorry.
I could tell. I could hear the cookies. Yeah. What kind of cookies is it?
My baby's mom, she's going to talk to you too. So let's wrap this up and we can get her on. But what I think about medication is, I think that people hold the recovery at a visceral faith-based level. Right? You want to ruin a family meal? Start talking religion or politics. And they hold it in that way. And I don't even think that they're wrong. What I think is wrong about it is the evangelical nature about it. This is how I recovered, so you have to recover that way too. That's when things become wrong.
Right.
Evangelical Christians will tell you that Hindus are going to hell because they don't find faith the same way that they do. And it's like, no, I don't think 700 million people are going to hell because they don't,
share a belief.
Right. Pope Pius X issued a papal encyclical that evangelicalism is a sin. Other people have their own relationship with God, whether they're Jewish, whether they're Hindu, whatever it is, and it is not for us to try to correct. And I think that there is a big faction of 12-step life out there who feels as though when somebody finds some other path, it negates them. I mean, what's the biggest mitzvah in 12-step life?
Passing
Doing
on.
a 12-step.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So when somebody's like, hey, man, thanks, but no thanks, it's insulting and offensive to them. I get it. I understand. I just, I feel like part of my role and purpose as an outspoken individual and as a social worker is to advocate for the island of misfit toys.
Wow.
That's great, right? That's great that you love Bill Wilson or Jesus or God or whatever the fuck your path is. That's wonderful. What about these people who aren't making it in that? Or just, fuck them? Like there's nothing to do. We can't do anything for them. We can't look at improvement. We can't try to save their lives. That's the other thing I tell people all the time. Look, people on buprenorphine and cannabis, they give up both of those substances all the time, right? You could in 2 years say, I'm not going to smoke pot anymore, right? People do. They make levels of achievement at various ways. It's sort of the all or nothing. And I'm a bit of a research geek, but one of the number one reason that people get from not going to rehab is they don't believe that they can give up everything entirely forever.
Right.
And they're unwilling to try.
Well, I mean, it's a scary thing when you're addicted and when it's your life and when it's your lifestyle. The idea is fucking daunting. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I just like to put out there that, like, I hear what you're saying, and I really do enjoy talking to you, and I do enjoy your opinion. Yeah. But you being somebody who's been clean 22 years, that got clean working the steps, I mean, we can't listen.
Correct.
And I'm not saying that it's the steps or it's medication or you're dead in the street. I think there's a million fucking ways to skin a cat or to do whatever. You never know what the hell is going to happen.
No, I know.
I just want our audience to know that if you're addicted to heroin, you don't necessarily need to stay addicted to heroin, nor do you need to necessarily take buprenorphine, nor do you necessarily need to go to a meeting. The fact of the matter is
correct, and nor do you need to live in secrecy and shame if you do take buprenorphine.
Right. The fact of the matter is, though, that, like, we just had this other kid, big fan of the show. His name was Scott. When Chris and I had started making the show, he would write in and he was always struggling with heroin, and he wound up going to treatment, and his wife offered to send us brownies, and Chris turned down the brownies, and I was always angry at him for that. But recently he relapsed again, and he died, and that's like, I'm sure more people than I know about that listen to our show died, and our audience is very much at risk, which is why you got to come up with something, and
that's one of my big messages is safety first. Dead people find no recovery, right? I don't know. People can enhance their recovery. They can change their recovery. They can ramp up the volume in their recovery. They can do lots of things, but not if they're dead. That's dead.
Right.
So that's one of my big reasons that I am an advocate for medication, for keeping people safe, and then they can make changes. And let me close with just this brief example. So I have this sponsee, right? This kid, and there's no dad. And he loves me, which is nice because, when you have kids, he calls me all the time and he loves meetings. He thinks it's wonderful. He fucking loves it. And I'm not going to tell this kid to smoke pot. I'm going to say, you're doing great. You're not drinking. Things are going better for you. You like the meetings. You like the guys in the meetings. Keep going. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not on some mission to get people to not be abstinent. I'm on a mission to expand the tent of recovery. You want those people outside the tent pissing in or inside the tent pissing out? So I don't know.
So wish I had all so the answer is you want them inside the tent pissing out, right?
That's right. You want them in the tent pissing outside the tent. You don't want them outside the tent pissing into the tent.
Because you don't want anyone pissing in the tent.
No.
Right. Exactly.
That's disgusting.
Joe,
all right, look, I mean, and I'm happy to talk to you whenever, but I know you want to talk to my baby's mom, and so she's here. I'll just have her. We'll have her. You want me to send you her number, or you want her to call you?
Here, I want to do one last thing before you get off the phone. It's going to take 30 seconds.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a game show we've invented here on Dopey called the Stash Word. Okay, it's very much like the $24,000 pyramid, where I'm going to describe something to you, and you're going to tell me what it is I'm describing to you. Okay, you ready? We're going to start in 5 seconds because I need to watch the clock. Here we go. You ready? This is an expression often describing smoking PCP. You're not dry, but you're
high?
No, it's like when it rains on you, you're
wet.
You're getting wet. Okay.
Yeah, you're getting wet.
If I take a hit of weed and I blow it into your mouth, I am
whatever. I always always thought that was gross.
Oh, dude, oh, God damn it. Okay, another expression for a needle. When a junkie has to clean his needle, he calls it his...
Rig?
Sure. What's another word?
His best friend?
Oh, Jesus Christ, Joe. I can't believe you run treatment. Okay, an expression...
I need to listen to the kids in group more.
Yeah. Okay, what do the kids in group call the dealer these days?
They call him the dope man, the crack man. They call him...
it's also another word that you use to plug your TV into the wall. It is your
USB cord?
All right, we're done. The expression is a plug. That's what they call it, the plug.
Okay. Look, I can't keep track of it. I just want them to pull up their pants, for fuck's sake. Like, how long is that really going to go on?
I don't know. I can't keep my pants up because I'm incredibly stylish. Joe, thank you so much for calling in.
It was great to talk to you, and I'm always happy to talk to the Dopey Nation and put it out there. Email me, man. I'm happy to talk to anybody. I'm happy to hear anything. Anyone who wants to be upset with me about my medication-assisted program, feel free.
All right, I'm sure there'll be some people that are looking to sign right up, and I'm sure we'll hear something. And if you have any questions for a loved one, ask Joe. Send it in, dopeypodcast@gmail.com.
Let me plug one thing.
Yeah, plug everything. Plug anything.
Right, I started The Fix, which is a complete and utter piece of shit now. And they're like, do you read it? I'm like, no. That'd be like, Hell's Angels is on the lawn raping your daughter. Do you want to watch that? I don't think so. So anyway, I started a new website called The Small Bow, and there will never be treatment center advertising on it under any circumstances for any reason. And half of the revenue goes to legal defense for young guys sitting in prison who have never seen a lawyer on stupid drug charges. So check that out, thesmallbow.com.
How does The Small Bow make money?
Subscription fees.
Nice. You got to teach me how to make money at this thing, because I'm like fucking pissing in the tent or pissing in the wind or something. It's not working out.
All right. Well, different conversation, but let me. All right. So Laurie will call in, and you can talk to her about media, women advocacy for recovery. She speaks a lot.
All right. Awesome.
She's writing a book.
All right. Give me her. Okay. So yeah, have her call in and.
She's a Fox News anchor, CNN, MSNBC, lots of different stuff.
All right. I'm psyched.
Cool.
All right. Cool.
All right. I'll send you her contact right now.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Joe. Bye.
Yep. Thank you. Bye.
So that was the great Joe Schrank. Always exciting and controversial to have Joe on the show with his take on medicated assisted treatment and whatnot. And Chris and I had talked about having this woman, Laurie Dhue, on the show since we had started doing the show. So let's get her on. She's this big-time journalist. She can tell us all about her career. She was on Fox News, as Joe said. She worked with Geraldo, The Blaze, For the Record, and she is in recovery. And I know she's friends with Amy Dresner, so let's call her up. Fuck it, hold on. So here we go. Here's Laurie Dhue. Welcome to Dopey.
Hello, Mr. Dopey.
Did you know? I'm Dave. But did you know?
I know. I'm just calling you Mr. Dopey.
See, I don't think I like that. When I was on I was on Dhew's show, one of those shows, Dhew's show or Bob Forrest's show, they wrote Dopey Dave. And I was like, holy shit. When it was me and Chris doing the show, I wasn't in danger of being Dopey Dave. Without Chris, somehow I've become Dopey Dave. And I should embrace it, right? I should just embrace it.
I feel like you should, because they just go together.
Dopey and Dave? Yeah, I'm fucked.
Dopey Dave or Mr. Dopey.
Jesus Christ. I've never even imagined that could happen. But
you seriously, you never thought Dopey and Dave went together?
No, I mean, listen, I have a podcast called Dopey, and my name begins with a D, so the alliteration is sweet for a news person. I can imagine. It's just so Laurie Dhue. You have to know that Chris was dying to have you on the show.
I know, and I miss Chris so much, and I regret not doing the show. Before he died,
he told me that he wrote you. And I said, and that you said you would do it, and I was like, well, write her again. And he would tell me that he was writing you again, but then he would admit to me that he was lying and that he never wrote you again. So how many times would you say he asked you?
It should have been an easy an easy thing for me to do, and boy, am I sorry that didn't happen, and boy, am I sorry that he died.
Oh, yeah.
It's just beyond awful.
It's the worst, but that's...
this disease is, cunning, baffling, patient, deadly, all of that. It's also very unfair, and it feels so unfair when someone so vibrant dies of this disease, and yet it happens every day, happens too often every day. And it's strange. You think when a good friend dies, you think, how could this have happened? When we know how it happens. It's just hard when it happens to a friend.
Right.
So God rest his soul.
Yes, and he was the best, and he was also the worst, which is part of why it happened, But he always said...
he didn't die in vain. I think people can learn from these deaths. And
definitely.
That's how I choose to look at it.
When I was crushed, obviously, I'm still crushed about it. I still have dreams about it all the time.
Oh, sure.
And when I told my sponsor about it, he was very matter of fact and said that this is Chris carrying the message in the most powerful way. And that's the truth. That's the total truth. Now, you have had an illustrious career as a journalist on TV, all 3 stations. Talk a little bit about your incredible career. I know you worked for Geraldo, and he's the man. I love Geraldo.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to encapsulate a 20-plus year career in
7
a minute
minutes?
or two.
In 7 minutes? Yeah, of course.
But, for the longest time, I had the distinction of being the only anchor who had hosted shows on all 3 major cable news networks, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. Now, there are a couple of other people who also have shared in that interesting distinction. 3 different networks, 3 totally different views of news, obviously. And it was a terrific career. I enjoyed most of the assignments I had, and it was amazing that I got as far as I got and was fairly successful in the business when I had, a little drinking and drug problem the whole time. And that was my secret. And so many of us who have this disease, who are also super high functioning, lived a secret life, a double life, and I certainly was no exception. The woman that 1 million or 2 people would see on any given night on TV was not the woman who stared back at me in the mirror when I went home.
1 million years ago, I interviewed John McCain, and I was high on heroin when I interviewed him.
Oh, wow.
Now, I remember Chris told me he always said, we have to ask her about this one time that you interviewed somebody and you were totally altered. What was the highest profile altered? No, not true.
I was never drunk on the air.
Okay.
However, I was drunk and high when I met President Bush.
That was the story.
When he was president. So that's classy.
Was he?
Nothing says class. Oh, no, he's been sober since he was 40.
And he knew.
No, he didn't know. But I was blowing lines in my hotel room and always traveled with a bottle of vodka. So I was doing some vodka shots and some rails, and then went down to meet the president at a private reception before the White House Correspondents' Dinner in, I think it was 2004. So, nothing says respect more than getting drunk and high before meeting the president.
Right.
I mean, that's how serious this disease is. It doesn't matter that you're about to meet the leader of the free world. It just doesn't matter. Of course I was going to be drunk and high.
Well, it almost adds to it. It almost adds to the legend of being able to do it in a weird, defiant, alcoholic, drug addict way.
Such an alcoholic way. And it's a chapter in the book I'm writing. So it's actually was a definitive moment in my life. And yet it wasn't the low point. It's like, oh, okay, I was drunk and high when I met the president, but that wasn't the worst of it.
Well, what was the worst of it that got you back on track, or that got you on the right track in the first place?
Oh, I was never on track. I think, it's interesting. People say it takes what it takes to get sober. And I guess it did. I guess I needed to be out there doing research and development for all this extra time, even though I knew for the last 10 years or so that I needed to quit. I overdosed one night on a delightful combination of alcohol, cocaine, Xanax, and marijuana, which is just a great combo.
Yeah. You got all your bases covered. It's like
got all your bases covered. If I was feeling too skittish, I would smoke a little pot. If I got sleepy, I would do a little more blow. And all this took place in, an 8-hour period or something absurd. And I was discovered face down on the floor of my kitchen by my boyfriend at the time. And I don't remember any of it. I came to in the emergency room of Roosevelt Hospital in Manhattan.
Yes.
And I didn't know how I'd gotten there. Had no idea that an ambulance came and got me, and they strapped me down to a gurney, and they had to revive me and pump my stomach and all that great stuff. Of course, I don't remember any of it. But that didn't even get me sober.
So what would you say the moment of truth was?
I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that I OD'd one night and I kept drinking and drugging for 2.5 more years.
Right.
That's how crazy the disease is. But a few things happened that led me to the decision that I would eventually make on March 14th, 2007, to put the plug in the jug, say no to blow.
Yes. I like that plug in the jug. I like that.
Put the plug in the jug, say no to blow, and put the hearse in reverse.
Put the hearse in reverse.
How cheesy is that?
I like that.
Right?
Yeah. You're
yes,
really going
I can't
with
take credit for it. A guy in an AA meeting on the Upper East Side used to say that all the time, and I love it.
Yeah.
Put the plug in the jug and put the hearse in reverse. Because, the truth of the matter is I would be dead, like millions of us, if we hadn't gotten sober.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you found, but what was the thought process? You just knew you had gone as far as you could go, and it was time to find something else?
I figured I was going to die.
Right.
I thought, I'm really not going to make it. And, a few things happened. I got into a fight with the man I was dating who said he couldn't date me anymore because I drank and drugged too much. I got in a drunken fight with my father, who is also an alcoholic. And physically, I was absolutely exhausted and totally bankrupt, just in every way. And I think maybe the happiest part of my decision to get sober was my sister's pregnancy. So my sister was pregnant the winter and spring and summer of 2007. And she was pregnant with the family's first grandchild. And I thought, you know what? I've got a reason to get sober now. I'm going to get sober for this unborn baby. And that's what I did.
Wow.
And
it's weird what the things that it takes.
Yeah. And that kid is 11 and a half now.
Amazing.
And,
That's awesome.
Yep.
And I think I saw online that you're friendly with the great Amy Dresner. True?
Amy Dresner is a new friend of mine. We bonded at the She Recovers conference. We were both keynote speakers. Amy absolutely brought the house down. She is one of the funniest people I've ever known, and that's saying something.
Right. And she's awesome.
Clever.
Today is her 6-year anniversary.
Yeah, let's give Amy Dresner a shout out. Happy 6th anniversary sober, Ames. Amy's memoir, My Fair Junkie, is terrific. It's a great read. After reading her story, I was like, oh gosh, I only did alcohol and cocaine. I wasn't so bad.
Right.
I didn't shoot cocaine into my neck.
Into your neck, yeah. That's why.
Meth into my neck.
That's why she's such a great dopey guest.
For 20 days straight. Like, I don't know how that woman's alive, but not only is she alive, but she's thriving and funny and, doing it her own way. I mean, obviously in AA and 12 steps, but she's doing it.
You still go to meetings?
Oh, yeah.
Does Joe ever go to meetings, or is he done?
I don't know. Yeah, Joe goes to meetings when he can.
He's funny. Joe's
but
funny.
I don't, Joe runs his show and I run mine.
Of course.
But out here in San Francisco, I've been
Well, we're super grateful that you took the time. I know you're sick, and I know it's late, and I really, really, really appreciate you jumping on.
No, I appreciate being on the podcast with you. And let me just say that I'm working on my memoir, and it's going to be about sex and drugs and TV news and a lot of different things that have happened to me, and hopefully some wisdom that I can impart on people who are curious about sobriety, who are trying to get sober, who are sober, for anyone who's interested in the disease of addiction and the journey of recovery. And hopefully it will be out next fall.
Right on. Very exciting.
Right on, man.
Dopey Nation
Thanks.
should totally look for the Laurie Dhue memoir. What's the title?
Well, this is not the official title, but if I could name it, it would be News and Booze.
News and Booze. All right.
News and Booze and Laurie Dhue.
I think that's not bad.
Right?
I like that. And we should definitely get you to come on again when you're not feeling sick and we're not feeling rushed.
Yeah.
And no Joe to fuck it all up. So I love that. And thank you so much again. And happy fucking New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. I wish you a year full of long, slow sobriety in 2019.
Right on, Laurie. Thank you so much.
Right on.
All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. So that was Laurie Dhue, big-time news reporter, sober for a long time. And now we are lucky to be joined by my beautiful fiancée, Linda. Welcome back to the show.
Hello.
And how are you today?
I'm good.
Except
for looking at your face.
You got to go closer to the microphone.
Which I'm sure you'll explain to the listeners.
Yeah, so big things happened last night. We fucking hit 1 million downloads after the Joe and Laurie Dhue thing. We got 1 million downloads. What do you think, Lynn?
It's out of control.
What do you mean it's out of control? What do you mean it's out of control?
It's crazy. 1 million. That's crazy.
It's a lot of listens.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? All of those family secrets just traveling over the internet.
How many of those listens were you listening over and over to get the number up?
That's what me and Chris used to say. we would be like, we don't have enough, and Chris would be like, I'm gonna just hit play on my computer. But
do you do that?
No, I've never done that.
Okay.
And I think
does your dad?
So the cat just jumped on the table, and Linda can't handle it when the cat jumps on the table.
This cat.
It's the only time she yells. I think she gets her aggression out on the cat. She goes down.
Get down.
But it's like you think that the cat is gonna know what you're talking about.
Well, some animals do learn. Not ours.
No, the cat is stupid. Anyway, 1 million downloads is a great achievement, and I'm very proud of it.
So I've said before that I'm okay, except for having to look at your face. So can you explain why I would even say that, so I don't just sound really nasty?
I had a traumatic experience today. I'll just say this. Last year, I didn't go to the dentist. The year before, I went to the dentist several times. Did I have a root canal? I had some stuff a couple years ago, some
You were very
fillings.
scared to go, though, because you were afraid of what they would find.
Well, I hadn't been.
gone for like a decade.
Yeah, I hadn't been for a long time. Then I went back, and they did some work. And then I missed 2018 at the dentist.
Right.
I didn't go at all.
And
then
postcards kept coming in the mail saying, you better get back here.
I know. And I was like, well, I didn't go for 10 years, and then I went 3 times.
Right.
I could miss a year or whatever. And then one day...
The pain started.
No, I was eating something, and my tooth broke.
Right.
And I broke a tooth.
Which is a bad sign if, teeth are breaking.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's just a terrible, terrible sign. It's like... it's like, for me, it's totally like...
Well, it's a sign of just not, being healthy.
Right. And it's a sign, I like to think of it like, because I'm in recovery, and I was a drug addict, and I am a drug addict in recovery, and I didn't take care of myself for so long that these are they call it the wreckage of your past.
Right.
And they usually talk about finances or losing a job or this or that. But this is serious vestigial wreckage in my mouth.
Right.
and the tooth broke. And I was like, that's not good. But I still didn't do anything about it.
Well, I knew there was a problem when yesterday I was making oatmeal. And I'm like, Dave, do you want me to put some nuts in the oatmeal? And he's like, I can't. No, I can't eat nuts. I'm like, why? He's like, my tooth. He's like, my tooth can't handle it. And I'm like, well, that's a concerning piece.
I find that when I eat nuts, even when I don't have this problem with my tooth, that the nuts get into my teeth. You don't find that?
When we have normal, healthy teeth, you should be able to eat anything.
But do you find that nuts get in your teeth?
I mean, no, I don't.
Well, my teeth aren't good, and nuts get in my teeth, and I also don't think there's much upside to eating nuts. I think peanuts are delicious.
Nuts are incredibly healthy.
I spent a whole life not eating nuts, and then I tried to eat nuts, and I tried to get into it, but I don't think they taste that good.
And then your teeth started cracking.
Well, no, I think my tooth cracked like eating something soft. I think that's how...
Eating a banana.
Yeah, that's how...
Eating the other thing you put in your oatmeal.
Yeah, that's how fucked up my fucking tooth was.
All right, so let's
move it along.
Let's get back on
track.
track.
Our daughter is going to get off the bus in
10 minutes.
12 minutes. So we got to make every second...
So his tooth cracked... And he went to the dentist today to have...
No, I went to the dentist 3 weeks ago to have my cleaning, and they took x-rays, and they were like, this doesn't look good. And I was like, well, what do you think you're going to have to do? And they said, I don't know, maybe we can put a crown on it, put a post, do some kind of bridge, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay. And I come in today, and the dentist is like... Dr. Bob, he's like, we're going to take it out.
Right.
And I was like, oh... I don't know if you know this, but I had another tooth taken out years ago.
I didn't. Why didn't you tell me that?
Because it's very embarrassing to have teeth yanked out of your head.
That's what Dave said when he came home. He said, I'm so embarrassed that I had to have a tooth taken out.
A tooth
taken out.
You should be embarrassed that you said a teeth.
Well, I was right. Now it's teeth.
Yeah.
Because he said you said that it's just a sign of your history. Like you really did connect this tooth to being an addict for so long and poor self-care and not, staying up on yourself.
It's true.
And I think that's, I wonder if a lot of people feel that way. I mean, our teeth are also a sign of are we on top of taking care of ourselves? Like I know flossing sucks and it's a discipline that's important. And if you're like using or if you have like lots of crap going on, the last thing you're going to do on a nightly basis is make sure you floss. These are the things that go out the window first, right? Mm-hmm. So if you were doing that for 10 years, of course you're going to start having your teeth fall out.
They didn't fall out. They just weakened.
To the point where you can't eat certain food.
I don't remember.
Like a 90-year-old has that problem.
I don't remember what happened on the other side. You're really going on with this.
I think it's weird your teeth can't handle nuts, but whatever.
When I lived in California, I was such a bad junkie. I don't remember what happened with that tooth. I think the same thing happened.
Do you think that because of your horrible sweets addiction, maybe that's playing a role in your teeth problem?
It can't be helping.
Right.
So I remember back then in California, I bit something and my tooth split in half also.
Yeah.
And I had no money. So I had to go to a dental school to get the tooth ripped out. And when
you had a student.
Yeah, but what I remember of this school, it was like stainless steel walls. I remember it being like a dungeon. No light, really dark, right. Dirty and gray, metal walls, and they fucking cracked that shit out of your head. Like very few meds or whatever. And I went home and I got super high.
Right. Well, a lot of times they do give you. It's funny. I told my mom what had happened, and she said, "Well, I hope he told them that he can't take any painkillers." And I was like, I don't know. I mean, he probably could, that's the thing is you could probably have left there with a prescription. And I wonder how many people get triggered just because they know that going to the dentist often does equal, getting pills. But also, I think it's interesting that you were very quick to get nitrous.
I wasn't quick to get it.
But nitrous is a drug.
But let me tell you what happened.
So if you were really...
I wasn't quick to get it.
Strong with your sobriety.
This is what happened. He says, unfortunately, I love nitrous.
But that's right.
I love nitrous. And I remember years ago, the first time I sat down in the dentist's office to get my cavity filled, the dentist was this weird smiling Russian man, and he goes, "Have you ever experimented with marijuana?" And he said that to me as he was giving me the nitrous, and I just died laughing, and I'm just hysterical laughing in the dentist chair. Yeah. You know, you fast forward to now, and it was like I wouldn't go to the dentist without nitrous. You know,
my favorite Todd memory that I'm just thinking of now is when Todd got our house. We all lived together up in Oswego on Governor Street, and there was like 7 of us living together, and Todd actually got our house just for a fun night, a gigantic nitrous tank. And we all literally sat on the couch with giant balloons watching The Simpsons.
Would he steal the tanks from his dad?
I don't know. I don't know where he got it from. I think he knew like an ice cream man.
I don't think ice cream men they use nitrous.
I don't know why I feel like he got it from.
I don't think so.
Who was an ice cream.
I don't know.
He didn't steal from his dad, but.
I think.
Yeah. So nitrous is.
I think you're confusing liquid nitrogen with nitrous oxide.
We'll have to talk more about it.
We'll never find out.
We'll never know.
That's something we'll never find out. Anyway.
But yes, nitrous is a lot of fun. Did you have fun on it today?
No. I'm going to tell you the story. Okay. So Dr. Bob, he's like a 65-year-old bald man who's like really high energy, really talkative. And he's like, "Hey, Dave, we got no problems. They're looking good. We got 3 things to do this year. It's a project. First thing we're going to do is take that tooth out." And I'm like, "Oh, no." And I'm very upset. And he goes, "Then all we have to do is do this, and everything's going to be okay. It's not that bad. Let me numb you up." So he takes that fucking long needle, and he starts jabbing me with the needle. He sticks me with it 4 times. And he goes, "Okay, I'll be right back." In the meantime, I've posted the 1 million downloads on Facebook and Instagram. So I'm like, as my mouth is numbing, I'm enjoying reading all the likes and all the happy Dopey fans who are so happy as my mouth gets numb, and I feel like such a loser that my tooth has to get pulled. Because I feel like people who get their teeth pulled I think of hobos. I think of homeless people. I think of junkies.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you told me your mother had a tooth pulled, I felt much better.
It's not a judgment. I mean, some people just need their teeth pulled.
Tooth pulled.
Right.
And the dentist is like, "You think I want to pull your tooth? I'll make much more money fixing it than pulling it."
Ooh,
and I was like,
true.
But he said, "Look at it in the x-ray. So gray and sad." It was fucked up. Anyway, so then he goes, "Hold on 1 second." And he goes in the other room, and like a bunch of time passes by, and he comes back in, and he goes, "Are you numb?" And I was like, "I'm numb." And I was like, "Well, how are you going to do this?" And he goes, "Well, I'm going to take some pliers, and I'm going to rip it out of your head." And I said, "Okay." And he takes the pliers, and I don't like the dentist. I just don't like.
I don't know if anybody would enjoy that experience.
I don't like them just going in my mouth for fucking anything.
Right.
I hate it.
Right.
Anyway. He takes the pliers.
This story is.
He puts it on my tooth, and he starts to wrench. And I go, "Ah!" And he goes, "What?" I go, "It's painful." He goes, "I've given you 4 shots of Novocaine." And he sticks me twice more with the Novocaine. And he like leaves the room again, and he comes back in, and he takes the pliers again, and he sticks it in my mouth. These pliers, and his arms are like on my shoulder, and he's like, "Rrr," and I'm like, "Ah," and I'm like, "Ah," and he goes, "Maybe you need some gas." I was like, "That's a very good idea." And the assistant comes in, and she puts these nose plugs on. That office is like straight out of 1981.
Yeah, and it's like a little bit ghetto too.
A little bit ghetto. It's the most ghetto.
I go there because it's the only place that takes my ghetto insurance.
The fucking nitrous nose plugs were like definitely used on many old people recently. Like I have this musty old person smell up my nose.
Did it work?
And then she cranks up the gas, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I feel nitrous. I haven't felt nitrous in years." And then he sticks his hand in, and he cracks the tooth. And I'm like, "Oh," and all of the beautiful nitrous is gone. And I realize all I can do is just endure this terrible, terrible thing.
Yes.
And he spends, I want to say 30 minutes cracking the tooth out of my fucking head. And he goes, this is a stubborn one. So he takes this drill instrument and he starts cutting at the bone at my gums because the tooth is so stubborn. And all I could think was I drank a lot of milk. And I bet you my teeth were very strong. I just don't know why they broke. And he's just fucking wrenching this thing with all of his might to crack the tooth out of my fucking head.
Right. Yeah, thank you. This story is really hard to hear.
Anyway, as it's over...
The swelling went down, though.
Well, it's the ice and the Advil and whatever. As it's over, I feel like I'm leaving detox. I feel totally traumatized. Like, I feel like... And he's looking at me, and he thought...
You sent me, like, a really funny text, and I'm like, uh-oh. I was like, what the hell is he gonna... What did you say? They pulled these. I just get this out of nowhere. They pulled my tooth out. It's very painful. I can't talk for a while. I'm going to need to lie down. It's like, okay.
You didn't write anything.
I did, and then you wrote hello because I didn't respond. And then I wrote the next one says, "Do you want a smoothie?"
That "Do you want a smoothie" text is 6 hours later. Maybe even 7.
Okay, we got to go get the daughter from the bus.
All right. Thank you.
To be continued.
So the day moved on. I got our daughter. Linda went out to dinner. I don't think she's going to come back in time to finish the episode. So I figure while I'm still awake, I'm going to finish it. This has been a very mishmashed episode. I want to make it clear that sobriety is possible without medicated assisted treatment. Not to say that medicated assisted treatment doesn't help a lot of people and save a lot of lives. It does. And same with weed. You know, if you can handle smoking weed and you're not an addict, you know, good for you. My friend Jeremy, who was on last week, was a lifelong stoner. And he's got this very beautiful fiance who's this big-time TV actress. She was actually on Dopey. And when Jeremy started dating her, he smoked weed every day. And she was like, I don't know, 20 years younger than him or something. Maybe 15 years younger than him, 16 years, who knows. And she was like, I don't mind that you smoke weed. You should just know that people who smoke weed every day rarely get anything else done. And that, like, fucked with Jeremy's head, and he stopped smoking bud. I don't know how much he's getting done, but that's not the point. The point is, whatever you guys want to do, you do. This is a show about drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. Me and Chris started the show to laugh at the most ridiculous drug stories we could. And, you know, it's not to point fingers. It's not to say what's right and what's wrong. I just know that I was totally addicted to heroin and pills and methadone. And now I'm not, and my life is better. And if you're struggling with opiates or you're struggling with drugs... You know, I was on meth too, and I did a ton of coke too. If you're struggling with this stuff, it is possible to get well. I believe anybody can get well, and I believe that even though the statistics are horrible, you just need a few things to happen for you in order for it to happen. Now, I'm going to play a voicemail, because we like to play voicemails on Dopey. This is a very, very hardcore Dopey fan. His name is Matt. I'm not going to say his last name. And he sent in another voicemail that was really good. I just didn't play it. That's a problem I have. Like, there's so many voicemails, and I'm so unorganized that it's easy to not play any. This is Matt. Here he goes. Thank you, Matt. And if you guys want to hear your voicemail, send in a nice one, 5 to 7 minutes. Make it dopey. We could use some serious drug stories. But anything is good. So here's Matt.
What's up, Dave? What's up, Dopey Nation? This is Matt, otherwise known as Indy Jones 4420 on the Twitter. I just thought I'd hit you with a little dopey. Got my new phone, and the audio recorder is sounding great, so hopefully y'all like it. Anyways, I'm an IV meth addict from Iowa, and I have, on December 14th, I grabbed 18 months clean, so I figured I'd just share with you my first experience with meth. I was 16, and we were partying at this really shitty hotel, and we were experimenting with a lot of drugs in that hotel. Like, I did ecstasy for the first time there, LSD for the first time there, and my buddy brought over some meth, and we decided to check it out. Laid out 2 lines on the back of the toilet stool, like the little tank on the back of the toilet. We did 2 lines and got really, really, really high. And I had this weed pipe I had a 94 Cavalier, and under the steering column you could pull down the panel and we would hide stuff in there. And I had this weed pipe that was homemade. I made it out of one of them cardboard tubes that go over coat hangers, and I cut a hole in it and put a socket and a screen on it and wrapped the whole thing in electrical tape. And it was our go-to pipe when nobody had a pipe, and we called it the Dirty Mexican. And so this pipe never got cleaned for like 3 years, and we decided the first time we were on meth to bust out the Dirty Mexican and clean it. And we got a resin ball the size of a golf ball out of that thing, and it was just hilarious. And that was the end of the Dirty Mexican. That was my first time doing meth, and definitely not the last. And on one of my tweaking adventures, I guess, we made up a song called The 5 Days of Methmas, and with the holiday season, I would love to share it with you. We could never figure out the other 7 days. We just started from 5, so it was like 5 grams of ice, 4 cans of Coleman, 3 fresh rigs, 2 silver spoons, and a camera in my front yard. Stay strong, Dopey Nation. Stay strong. Peace.
So thank you, Matt, for the voicemail.
Thank you, Matt.
Linda's back. She just got back from dinner. She decided to finish out the episode, which is very nice.
Yes, I'd like to talk more to Matt about the Dirty Mexican, though.
What do you want to say about it?
I'd like to know more about where that name came from.
Like, yeah, Matt,
why the coat hanger pipe was called
the Dirty Mexican? Linda's curious with the ramifications of potentially not having.
Why do you hate Mexicans, Matt?
Yeah, where's the social justice, Matt? But Matt is a big time Twitter follower, big time
of Trump.
No, of Dopey.
Oh, of Dopey.
So I appreciate that. I love the hardcore fans, and Matt's definitely one of them. But the Dirty Mexican pipe is probably totally racist.
Yes.
So it's New Year, first episode of the show of the year. Are you excited to be one of the people on the show?
I am. I'm very honored. Thank you for having me.
Wow, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Linda goes to sleep usually at 8:00 at night, and she can never do the show.
Past my bedtime.
And so it's nice that she gets to do the show.
Yes.
Now, I want to tell a quick story regarding one of my heroes, Artie Lang. And 2 weeks ago, Artie had agreed, maybe a month ago, Linda and I went down to Governor's in Levittown. To see Artie perform comedy.
Yes.
And he was funny. And
he was good. He seemed like he was healthy and
joyful.
Yeah.
At the end of the set, everybody like rushed the stage to shake his hand. It was very beautiful, you know. Mm-hmm. Artie did seem like he had been through something and was on the other side of something. And I wanted to hang out and wait to see him, but time was wasting. We had the baby. We had Linda's mother was here. Linda gets up at like 3 a.m. with the baby, so she was tired. So as we were leaving, I gave like the owner of the club or the manager of the club a Dopey ski hat, and we took off. And then later that night, I see Artie tweeted all these pictures of himself in the Dopey ski hat. So I'm like incredibly excited about it. And then me and Artie had texted a little bit, and he had agreed to do the show. So somehow we had agreed to do it on Christmas Eve day. But like that was and Linda had agreed to let me go on Christmas Eve day until it was like the day before, and she's like, "You're fucking gotta be kidding me!
Right.
You're not going anywhere." So I got Artie to agree to do it to the day before that, Sunday night in Hoboken, after I worked the 12-hour shift. So at around 1:00 in the afternoon, I start texting Artie. Mm-hmm. Blah blah blah. Are we up for it? Let me know.
Harassing him.
Yeah, and I probably texted him, every hour once. And then as it got closer to me having to leave work, I started like texting twice. And then maybe another one. And then I leave work, and I was like, fuck, it's not going to happen. And I said, I guess it's not going to happen. And he never responded to anything.
Right.
So I called him, and I didn't expect him to pick up the phone. I don't know why. I called him because I have problems. But I called him, and he just answers the phone like this. Fucking wait. Fucking wait. Fucking wait.
Well, you pushed him over the edge.
Fucking wait. And I said, okay. And he hung up, and I walk home. You know, I walk to Penn Station thinking that I'm going to go home. And I'm a block away from Penn Station where I get a text where he says, I can do it at 10:45. You know, I think it was 9:30 or something at night.
Right.
Can you do it? I mean, it's 9:30 at night. You know, Christmas Eve is the next day. But this is Artie Lang. And if I had...
And you're obsessed with him, so of course you're going to do whatever it takes.
Exactly. So... That's all true. And also, like, not to mention, like, when I have a show done on Sunday for Friday, my week is so much easier.
Sure.
Like, every day, the stupid show haunts me. Like, what am I going to put up this week? Blah, blah, blah. You know, today, what is today? It's Thursday night.
Right.
I post tomorrow. You know, last week, I recorded the show Friday night at 11, and then I released it.
Right.
You know? So it's like a lot of pressure. Like the week that I got Mark Maron, we recorded on the Monday, and the whole week was like a beautiful week because I had this amazing episode ready. And that's what I thought I was going to have with Artie. But time went by, and he didn't come through. And he texted that he was sorry, and that was the end of it. And I came home, and we're wrapping presents for Christmas, and I can't stop talking about how much I wanted to get Artie on the show.
Yes.
To which you said, do you remember what you said?
I don't remember. What I say?
You said that I am exploiting Artie Lang.
Oh, that's right.
That I want to exploit him.
And you said I was right.
I think she was right. And
no, I said that he's you know, he has a lot going on. You know, and he just got out of treatment, and he was just trying, and you weren't respecting that. You just wanted to get him on the show.
Well, I care about Do
you though?
I do. I care about him, and like.
Oh no, I said he just needs a little space.
Well, he definitely does. But anyway, so then like, you know, I try to like do what Linda says because I think Linda's very smart and right with this stuff, and like. I don't know that it's totally exploitative. I think it's more like when Artie comes on the show, it validates the show. When I grew up listening to Howard Stern and listening to Artie, like it meant something to me. So when Artie was on with Chris, I didn't even think that was a good episode. Chris was fucking high, and it turns out Artie was high too. I was the only sober person on the show.
I thought it was a good episode. It was still a really good episode.
Lots of people liked it, but I didn't love it.
Artie was great.
And I just think that like. If I could get him to sit down and talk slowly and go over stuff. But it's almost
like you want him to be this way with you. Like you have this expectation of Artie that I don't think is necessarily realistic.
Right, it's not. I have an expectation of...
You want to sit down and have some Barbara Walters...
No.
experience with him.
No. I want it to be like the Stern Show.
But how he was on his interview with you and Chris is how he is.
Like on stage, you mean?
I felt like he was very authentic when he was on Dopey. I feel like that's how Artie is.
Right. Well, obviously that's
right.
Right.
But I'm saying, so what are you looking for? What you just want to do that again and again and again and again? Like, what else do you want from him?
No, I'm certain. Certain, and I pay attention to the shows he does, and I'm just certain that he could go on a show and have like a real conversation that's slow and real.
Okay, but my thing is.
Barbara Walters. How dare you?
No, but you're like get over Artie Lang. It's like let's be done with him. Like he's cool, but like you're like obsessed.
I know.
You're still like I feel like we're always talking about him.
So then let me just tell you the end of the story. So then later in the week he texts me like
leave me the fuck alone.
No. He texted me like you know that if I came on the show, and he meant like in like a hosting capacity because we had talked about him hosting the show.
Like he'd be the new co-host?
Like he said, you know, if I came on the show, it would be way bigger and a lot of people would die because it would be more of an audience. Right now, we just lost a fan of the show, and he's like, how do you think that would be for your recovery? And I said, well, being around addiction is actually good for my recovery. It's part of the deal. That's
a pretty intense thing for him to say.
I know. And he's like, I really want to do it. Eventually, I will.
But what more is there to talk to him about?
I think that I would love to talk about what happened recently with him, but at the end of it all, right? When we're getting close to the million, and I do have a problem. I think what you're saying is right. I'm obsessed with Artie Lang. We're getting close to the million downloads, and my dad is obsessed with the million downloads. My dad is texting me, David, do you see you're at 999,970? And I look, and my counter says 3,000 less for some reason. He goes, oh, it doesn't seem like your counter is accurate, and he sends me the link for his counter. And I was like, And I was like, I bet Artie would be impressed with that. So I take a picture of it to send to Artie, okay? And the text doesn't go through. And I was like, wait a second. And I texted.
Did he block you?
And then I called him, and it says, the number you have reached has been changed. And I was like, oh. And I look at Twitter, and he posts that he changed his number, probably because of me bothering him all the time. No, probably because there's drug dealers and stuff and dangerous things. But so now we're going to get back into a phase of our life without Artie, without me hearing from Artie, and I'm very sad about it.
Yeah. It'll be okay.
It'll be
all right. I think you need to give Artie a little space.
Yes.
Maybe find somebody else to start to harass.
Yes.
Who could be your next victim?
Well, the thing about Artie that was so good was that he would respond. You know what I mean? Nobody else that I've harassed responds.
But that's such a weird stalker thing to say.
Which?
The good thing is that he'd actually respond.
That is good, though. It's not fulfilling for me to, stalk somebody who doesn't respond. I can't keep up with that. Do you know what I mean? The fact that Artie would respond made it less stalky and more of a friendship.
It's not a friendship.
Like a deranged friendship. No?
Well, listen, let's what else is there to talk about?
Well, I would like to thank my friend Harold, because we played Harold's song at the beginning of the show.
Oh, okay.
And,
thank you, Harold.
But Harold had something to plug, so we have to plug what Harold wanted to plug. Harold wanted to plug fucking his new band called We Finance Everyone, and his Instagram is at we_finance_. That's the blood clot in my mouth. Everyone. And all right, I guess I don't think you added that much to this episode.
I don't think you like what I had to say about Artie, but it's all good.
It's all good. It's not good at all. I got a blood clot in my mouth. I feel terrible. The first show of the year had 1 million downloads. I think the most important thing to say is that anything is possible. And maybe Artie's going to be the new host of Dopey one day. Maybe my obsession with Artie will lift.
Maybe it'll pay off.
I don't see it paying off. I don't see that happening. But, all right, I guess we've hit the end of another episode.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you have a resolution for 2019?
You and I went over resolutions ad nauseum for the Dopey Nation.
Well, or as our daughter says, revolution.
I do. I have several.
What's your revolution?
My first revolution or resolution is that I'm going to go to the dentist as many times this year that I have to, because I'm not going to have another tooth extracted. That's my number one resolution.
What else?
Number two, I don't know. I said I was going to start eating better, and I haven't been able to do that.
No.
You got any resolutions, Lynn?
No, I don't. I'm perfect the way I am.
Yes. Before we go, I also want to thank Josh, who sent in a tune at the beginning of the show. Any musicians out there, please send in Dopey music. Keep it short. I love Dopey music. If you're an artist, make some Dopey art. We love that too. If you have a good Dopey story, send in a good drug story. Keep it short. Make it funny. That would be great. Write a review. Chris loved reviews. Write reviews for Chris. I like reviews too. Just follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Reddit and all that shit, Facebook, whatever. And before we go, I'm going to read Dopey podcast review of the week. Unless you want to read it, Lynn.
I can read it.
You want to read it? So come over here. This one. You're going to love this. It's very, very positive about me.
Oh, okay.
From here. Start here.
Dopey's great.
How many stars?
5 stars. By Numbnuts. Can you stop pointing? January 2nd, 2019. Dave is a cool, old school New York City Jew. Unfortunately, a rapidly dying breed. He's been through the addiction ringer, yet maintains a great sense of humor like most of us survivors. I think it's the only way we get through this upside down world. Keep up the good work, Dave. You're helping many of us.
Here, you want to read this one too?
Exceptional podcast, 5 stars by XXXXXXXXO. December 31st. I started listening to this podcast before Chris died, and I'm addicted to it. As someone who mildly afflicted, I appreciate the war stories as well as the hope that Dave represents. Losing Chris was a shock and hurts us all, but Dave is really interesting and resilient in his quest to prove that sobriety is the best way to live. I highly recommend this podcast. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
And then read this one.
Which one? Love you too, Dave?
Yes.
Dave and 5 stars. Okay.
By the Only Black Dope.
By Only Black Dope. Dave and Chris really feel like friends I've known for so long. They've become a major part of my recovery. Losing Chris was very painful, being he helped me get sober. Dave, you are like a brother, and I'm glad to have you in my network. And thank you for what you are doing. I love you, and I love Dopey. Hope we can actually get closer. Wow, this is like very, very intense. Hope we can actually get closer as you continue to be a major part of my life with this wonderful podcast. My favorite podcast. I'm afraid Only Black Dope might be like looking in our windows right now.
I talked to Only Black Dope this week, and Only Black Dope is not sober. And
Only Black Dope's a little too in love with Dopey.
He loves Dopey. What do you want?
I'm kidding.
Yeah. What do you? It's like, why can't people like the show? Linda doesn't like the show as much as you guys. Just so you know.
No.
No,
I do.
All right. Only Black Dope is like out there fucking using in Maryland. So get it together, my friend.
Get it together, Only Black Dope.
Get it together. You're gonna stay, or you can do what Joe Schrank said and be on medicated assisted treatment for the rest of your life. But I digress. Let's end this episode on a happy note. Stay strong, Dopey Nation, and fucking toodles for Chris, and Happy New Year, and may 2019 be better than 2018.
Happy New Year. Toodles for Chris.
Just want to apologize for Linda. She doesn't usually stay up this late, and she went out to dinner with her brother, and she just came back, and it's way past her bedtime, and she doesn't like me asking her questions on the spot. So,
okay.
Linda, have a nice good night.
Good night, all.
You feel satisfied with that? So everyone, wish Linda the best, and Happy New Year, and stay strong.
I want to take a walk around the world. I wonder would it do me any good. Until I get some money in my pocket, then I guess I'll just have to walk around my neighborhood. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And I want to take a ride up in the sky. Watch this aeroplane just pass me by. And I want to see a Lear jetliner take a dive, just to show all of these people what it means to be alive. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I want to be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And my shadow's getting smaller and smaller. And it's time to where I stand. Shadow's getting smaller and smaller. And left the city far behind. I'll take the high road, however far it winds, because peace and love are very, very, very hard to find. And I wanna be good so bad. Wanna be good so bad, so bad. I wanna be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. Damn it, all these suckers make me mad. And it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had. And these suckers make me mad, and I wanna call my dad. And it's all I ever had. 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 And these suckers make me mad, and it's all I ever had. And I wanna call my dad. And it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had.